Welcome to the Top Golf Club podcast, the show where we explore the business of sports, entertainment, and technology. I'm your host, Burak, and today we are diving into the fascinating world of AI in sports. Joining us today is Peter Bergen, the founder and the chief product officer of Golf.AI, a company that's revolutionizing golf with power of the AI. And Peter is here to share the story behind Golf AI, the challenges, and what kind of challenges creating a sports AI solution is, and his vision for the future. So, hello, Peter. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Excited.
Yeah, it's an honor. And let's dive in. First, I wanted to ask about the background a little bit. Golf AI, what inspired you to create Golf AI? What was there a specific gap in the market that you aim to address, or how the story started?
Yes. We can go pretty far back, actually. So the story started actually probably when I moved to Australia. Before we were recording, talking about how much really 2 years ago. And I actually started to get a lot more technical, learning to code, learning to build applications, web applications, backend technology, various different things. And in that time is also when ChatGPT came out. So the whole AI excitement started happening. Obviously, AI has been being built for years and years and years. It's been going back to the tens of years or hundreds of years, probably people have been thinking about AI. But that's when I started getting very technical and being able to build these applications. And with that, as you start building technology, you tinker and you build different versions and applications and stuff like that to test and build your skills. And me enjoying sports and liking sports and having that be one of my passions. And then also this AI movement was happening, and me also trying to build my technical skills. That's essentially what I would do. I would build on these AI applications, stuff like that. And obviously, as that industry progressed, I was able to kind of like carve out a little niche for myself, being able to provide some assistance or consultancy or contract work to various different entities. So that kind of progressed through the last couple of years, and then just through various meetings of individuals, we got together. There's 5 individuals to start Golf.AI, and I mean a lot of the big thesis around that, or the general thesis, was that these language models will be obviously very important in our lives moving forward. Sports is still maybe one of the last live art forms, like maybe concerts and sports are very much like the very last live art forms that will not go away. People like community, people like competition, people like people, right? So we like enjoying watch other people play sports. So we wanted to play in that space where we knew both were going to be very big, obviously moving forward, and if we can play in that space, then we can figure that out. We spent a long time trying to figure out what we wanted to do in that space. I mean, there was a lot of projects going on that were kind of doing a lot of R&D within that space. But specifically for golf, what we're able to do is, because golfers use technology and invest in technology and invest in their own game personally, with both time, money, attention, which is much different than any other sport, right? If you play football or soccer, generally need a ball, shoes, and a couple friends, right? You don't really need an application to do anything with. And that can go across pretty much every other sport. So golf is the one where people use technology pretty conclusively in their own hobby or activity or what that might be. And then also they watch the sports well, because obviously what we can do with all these language models is go into the world of how you watch sports. So we can kind of both play in that cross section of while you watch and while you play. And which was the general thesis of kind of Golf.AI. And I mean, like I mentioned, there's 5 of us in terms of like the partners group. At first, we're just generally the collective is generally very connected in the golf space, right? There's people that have started multiple golf companies, people that have played high level golf across like the PGA and stuff like that. So just the passion for golf, passion for sports, and passion for obviously technology, and trying to figure out that space. And that's kind of like the initial the initial idea for Golf.AI it kind of just came through a natural progression of exploration, I guess, and figuring out what we might have the best chance at succeeding at.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. I also saw some AI solutions in golf space and in tennis space that you can download it as an application and make the phone camera record you, and then it gives you some kind of tips like how you swing better and that kind of game improving AI usage, and also some kind of application usage was involved. So I definitely think there is a need, like also like you said, the golf players are tend to spend time and money to get better at the game of golf. It doesn't matter what level you play. And again, like you said, it is a basic difference than a soccer player. That, I mean, I'm pretty sure there might be some app that you can download and look how to shoot the soccer ball better. But I don't know how many people would be interested in doing that. And golf is obviously in a much better with the data points and the whole usage of the new technologies ahead. And also some companies are investing a lot inside of it. So I think it's a spot on app or the website right now for Golf.AI, and we can deep dive at technology and innovation a little bit. After I knew that I'm going to have the interview with you, I played around at Golf.AI a little bit, what kind of solutions it has. So when I first signed up, it asked me to choose a partner, and I chose Hiro Nakamura because I thought the Zen Golf Master was his skill. So I thought that's a nice skill to have. And then also it has besides my partner, that for the listeners out there, that you can check out the golfing rules, which I think also an interesting point, because again, in contact sports, it's hard to ask AI, was it a foul or was it a penalty or not? But in golf, there might be specific situations that where you can directly ask and then find out about the rule and what the verdict is. So, can you explain a little bit, like, what can the users do with Golf.AI? What makes it possible? And also, uh, this question will be later on, but I saw also there is something called My Back in the sections, which will be coming up soon. So, what will the My Back section look like in the future?
Yeah. So, so right now, so we're very much in the infancy of building Golf.AI and coming out with a couple very exciting features, hopefully over the next 2 weeks, which we can talk about. Um, so right now, one of the big first steps was solving like the rules problem. Rules are confusing. The rule handbook is essentially impossible to navigate as a normal human being. So therefore, we rely on probably other human beings on the golf course that are also bad at golf. So with language models, what we can do is we built in this data set that's proprietary to us to be able to prove the golf rules scenario. So you can ask it a question and it'll respond with depending on the complexity of the question, a very accurate answer. We tend to be very accurate on the more basic level questions, and then obviously golf rule questions, as we've learned time and time again, can get to be the most ridiculously confusing questions in the world. So obviously, sometimes even human beings have a real hard time. So right now, golf rule questions, very simple, through text, through voice. You can talk to your partner. So your partner is very much like the personality and the voice behind the text output or the voice output. So very much how you can like talk to Siri or talk to whatever phone assistant you have on your app. You can talk to Golf.AI and it'll respond it with information. The other side of it is understanding the live golf landscape across like the pro tour, right? So you can ask it real time questions in terms of like how did Colin Morikawa do last week, right? Essentially information you might want to know on the golf course. Along with that, you probably saw on the homepage, we have like the trending section. So we have like trending topics in golf. You can just click it and it'll essentially output a overview of that trending topic and then continually on. So kind of very much in that space of media and golf rules. What we're eventually moving towards is we'll have an on-course caddy, which is very exciting. So then this kind of comes to the culmination of like your partner. That's what we call it, your partner, because obviously your partner can be a caddy. Your partner can understand what's going on in the live golf landscape. Your partner can know the rules. So the on-course caddy will essentially just be an application that talks to you, or you can talk back to it, and it'll be like, it'll pick up your location. We understand your location. It'll be like, you can hit a 7-iron here. The wind's blowing from the right to left. So maybe hit a bit right. There's a bunker at this point. So essentially what a caddy would be doing, standing right beside you, we can do in terms of, and then understand your game. About the My Bag stuff, what we can do is upload a video of your golf bag, and we'll be able to, with AI, understand what's in your golf bag. And then within that, we can analyze your bag based on your game, and understand maybe where you can make upgrades, or even like who on the pro tour has a similar golf bag, maybe what your golf bag is valued at. We'll be able to pull a lot of insights around that as well. So it's kind of like this culmination of a lot of different areas of golf. And like the easiest always way to say is, well, obviously with the caddy that's coming out, is essentially just having a caddy just in your pocket to be able to talk to you while you're on a golf course. I was using it, testing it yesterday on the golf course, and it's quite exciting to have your partner and the voice that'll be there, and be able to kind of talk to you as you go, right? Because we can like qualitatively understand what's going on at the golf course, and understand where your position is, and if there's bunkers, if there's stuff like that, right? There's like hidden objects, right? So rather than having to use like a rangefinder or another application or anything, we can just talk to you as you go up and down the golf course. Um, there's a little bit of a ramble. Yes, I think we covered everything. It's very much trying to be like this very holistic uh, platform for while you watch and while you play, right? So that includes rules, right? Obviously, while you play, we have like this rules data set. We can build in local rules because we know what golf course you're on. Um, and we can build in obviously understanding of the pro game, and then be able to build stories around that, because and then we'll continue down that path of both while you play and watch, and just enjoy the game, really.
Okay, great. So, well, you mentioned like it's a cross-platform for news, rules, and in the future it's going to be maybe your personal golf assistant that will make even recommendation to you. And when you were explaining, I also thought like maybe if a person is playing at the same golf course all the time, that with the data points gathered by Golf.AI, it might also make some accurate recommendations in the future with the gathered information, since that you will have some data set that makes sense to analyze with AI and create recommendations out of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So as you use the platform, it improves as you go, right? So which is exciting. Understands you a little bit better, understands your tendencies, and obviously with like the data points we can use as you move around the golf course, which is exciting.
Another question is, what were the biggest technical challenges you faced during the development of Golf.AI? Was there something specific that you would say this was the real pain point when I was developing this?
Yeah. I mean, I think in the sense of using these language models, so we all use ChatGPT, or have, maybe some people have, some people haven't. I'd imagine most people have at least seen it. So these language models are a lot of the backbone of how things work in the application. And these language models, unlike other applications, right? So if you're using an actual application, you press a button. We know you press a button. We know where you want to go with that button. With, for example, a question you might ask on Golf.AI, we have to do some searching in the background. We have to do some certain information. So if you ask a question asking about golf rules, your question won't be similar to anyone else's question. So we then have to pass it through these language models to figure out what you mean and what you're asking. And we have to do a lot of, let's call it like knowledge work, automate the knowledge work that has to happen in the background. So therefore, these language models are, let's call it non-deterministic. We can't exactly predict the output every single time. We don't know for sure what it's going to do every single time. And that's the magic of that, right? They're creative. They come up with like unique answers, and they come out with different answers like that. So there's a little bit of the challenge is making sure we build enough guardrails in it that it is outputting the correct information. Like, for example, on the golf course, if you're on the golf course and we have these language models that are speaking to you, if it's 120 yards to the bunker, it should say it's 120 yards to the bunker. We don't want that to be different. But maybe we want the way we say it's 120 yards to the bunker. Maybe it's in a different language. Maybe it's in a different tone, a different style, right? Like all these different things. So you want the creative elements, but you also want to have these guardrails to be able to actually produce the outputs that also are relatively expected, because they can go off the rails sometimes. So the difficult part is building in these language models to actually be predictable, but also within the scope of allowing the user to kind of like build their own journey as well at the same time. So it's really around like the language models. A lot of how it works is, so what you'll see is you'll type in a text box in and the text will come out. Within that is one text input and one text output. But behind that is probably 4 or 5 other text inputs and outputs that are happening to run the system. So there's a lot of capabilities for errors behind that. So just being able to manage that and handle that. And then also, I mean, as you just kind of build a system, you expect users to use it one way and then they come in and use it another way, right? And therefore you have to then build a system to be able to fit within that capabilities of those requests or that's what they might think or want to use, right? So it's working alongside people that can give you feedback, and obviously, and then be able to show you what they're using it for. So it's really around managing the language models, and they're getting much better. They're getting much smarter. We'll be able to like fine tune them to be able to be much more useful within our application and stuff like that. So it's just managing that. But if you can figure that out, then it is quite impressive what they can do. So, which is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously. I mean, when I was playing around with the app a little bit, I also realized that it's giving some really accurate answers. And I mean, I'm also someone who uses ChatGPT daily and other AI solutions, so I I can say that was a really successful answer. I mean, I didn't like talk with Golf.AI a lot, but like in 15, 20 minutes, I was pretty satisfied with it. So congratulations, I guess, on the technology. Let's deep dive into business and marketing strategy a little bit. First of all, I want to ask you, like, how large is your team? How many people are you, and are you guys hiring more people? How is it working?
Yeah, so right now the team full time is 5 people. And then if we talk about like subcontractors, part-time people, that could expand to 9, 10 people on any people that are working on Golf.AI and stuff like that in various different capacities, some as needed, some at hourly kind of rates. So yeah, always looking obviously to bring out like talented members, right? So the whole idea of business, it's essentially just a collection of people doing things that hopefully provide value. And then the big side of that is, like you said, like the marketing and user acquisition side, because we've been pretty deep building the technology, and obviously now that's kind of like this pathway to actually getting it out to the world and to getting users and stuff like that. In terms of like marketing and distribution and stuff, so we have a couple really good industry partners that will be coming out with a couple like features and activations with, let's call it around, like around the My Bag coming soon that you saw. There's actually something in the back end that's happening around an industry partner, which is exciting. So obviously allowing those pathways for user acquisition is good. And then, I mean, the secret strategy, I don't know how much is the secret strategy, is around like the AI partner. So when you first signed up, you used an AI partner or selected a person. The trick is that if you scroll through the list, there's one of them that actually has a star on it. We don't do a good job at showing what this is. That's actually a real human being, right? So
Oh,
that's human So Ewan is a friend of ours here in Australia. He's actually a broadcaster for Sky, BBC, I believe. I said that wrong. On the tour, so he goes to tour events, DP World Tour events, so like that, to actually like do commentating. He played at a couple professional PGA events. So the whole idea is then to be able to license IP and brands and human beings to be your AI partners, right? So obviously you can imagine like the players and LPGA players and different influencers and people that are in the industry that could be your caddy on the golf course. And won't go too deep into promising any because I tend to promise the big ones, but we're not going to do the big ones first. But that's the whole idea, right? So is one of them can be the caddy on the golf course, golfing alongside you and stuff like that. So obviously, very similar to how we see it as, like when you play a video game, you play with the top players, right? Because I think
Yep.
that's in those video games, a lot of the times is if those players and their names and their image weren't in that video game, the video game would lose a lot of value, right? So, so that's kind of another idea we're moving towards, which I think is exciting. So it's both having like obviously, and again, a lot of what we're trying to do is solve a lot of problems. Like for example, the caddy is obviously like helping you down the golf course, like knowing obviously there's bunkers, there's water, there's how far it is, that the wind's doing, all these things, which is useful. But then there's like a lot of with these like language models and different technologies we're able to implement, it's also making it more enjoyable and fun and engaging, right? Because we can add in these personalities and these like people you actually have like a connection to on like because you watch them every week. So that's really exciting to be able to do.
Is it in your plans, I'm assuming, to bring a subscription model per month or per year like the
Yeah.
other AI services is? I mean, right now I haven't seen it yet, but probably it is not offered yet. But in the future, I guess the business model also going to transition into that direction, right? Okay.
Yeah. So so event not eventually we will, yeah, for sure. Um yeah.
Okay. Were there any funding rounds or private investment opportunities until now, or any Kickstarter
Yeah.
campaigns or something similar?
So we did a private round with like the partners we have now on the cap table to kind of kickstart the business. We're actually going into now a new round of funding. So obviously looking for investors and going through that like process now with a lot of other conversations, which is exciting to be able to increase growth and obviously spend money or be much more aggressive in terms of like the marketing, user acquisition side of stuff. And since we've been able to build a lot of like the product and we really want to ramp that side up as we kind of release like the new features as we're coming in, where the caddy is like a big thing that you can use in 30,000 golf courses around the world. So we can use it in any language, practically any language that golfers golf in. So therefore, we obviously can be much more aggressive in terms of like international expansion. So so we've done a small round and obviously looking to do another one now actually.
Mhm. Will the second one also in private round, or will it be a public access in any level?
Yeah. Well, public access meaning like obviously we're welcome to the conversations of anyone, right? So we're going to a lot of like venture capitalists and high net worth
Oh, okay.
individuals,
I don't
stuff like that.
I
Yeah, yeah.
was
So
I meant like, oh, if the regular people who are interested in an app can invest as well for equity, like Kickstarter tip-in or something similar, but okay, nice.
yeah, I mean, obviously you can bring individuals on the cap table as well, right? So especially early days, looking for people that are aligned in terms of like the interests, right? Industry professionals and stuff like that, right? So not only obviously just bringing money on, but also bringing on people that are also strategically aligned. It's called.
Mhm, makes sense. I want to talk about the customer feedback until now a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you received any surprising insights from customers that would say, "Hey, maybe you can add this feature too," or there was something that the customers, or I want to say not the customers, but the users, were
Yeah.
mentioning to your support, so you like basically made the like gather the feedback and develop the app even further?
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting always getting feedback from the users, which is always wanted and welcomed and what we want. It's very difficult early days, especially because no one, and this is a positive thing, no one really knows what is possible and what we want, right? We kind of all have this idea of like, hey, this would be cool, that would be cool. But then what will sustain value, what we'll be able to provide, right? What will be unique, what position well. So it's always like it's a lot of intaking ideas, which is very helpful, and then obviously trying to like filter through that, trying to understand with this feature idea from this user, what are they actually looking for, right? They're looking actually to improve their golf game with this feature. Is there a different way we can look at it and do it from our angle rather than just that way? And maybe that way is the right way. So that, yeah, I think overall, one of the big things, and it fits a lot within the thesis of what I think sports are about. I think sports generally are about connections and stories, right? So if you take away one, sports is kind of useless in a sense, right? If it was just about the stories, but I couldn't experience that with my friends, family, it would kind of be dull, and I probably wouldn't watch much of it or engage in much of it. So actually, a lot of the feedback is around the social aspect of golf, right? So can I play against my friend, like virtually, let's call it, right? Like you go out and play around. Can I play against you somewhere on a golf course? I'm in Australia, you're in Turkey, right? So like all the other so a lot of it's around the social side of it, which is difficult in the sense of because I again like we talk to users and I don't think they fully have an understanding and we don't have a fully understanding of like what that looks like exactly, right? It's difficult. It's like is it playing against you on a golf course? Is it just seeing your scores? Is it like Strava? Is it like the social media? Is it it's very different aspects. So yeah, we're trying to navigate that. I mean, but it's a huge aspect of golf is like sharing it with other human beings. Um, so we're trying to navigate how we trying to fit that in. We have some ideas, but that's generally one piece of feedback that keeps coming back and back is like the social aspect of it, which is always interesting.
I also wanted to ask, is it possible to use the datasets with Golf.AI, which the rounds you are playing with golf simulators and not the actual golf course itself?
Yeah. So another thing we're trying to explore with obviously a lot of like the simulator companies
Hmm.
is the hope is, and been some simulators went recently. Always trying to figure out because that's becoming like it's a rather growing industry of golf, right? People playing, I think what it's called, it's a massively growing market. It's non-traditional golf, right? Like that's like the short par three courses.
Also, are say all close.
Yeah, it's a massive market, right? So how can we kind of fit into? Is there a way we can fit into that? So obviously we were in discussions with some like simulator companies in terms of like how we can make that work, how we can make because obviously for them they're looking for more engagement in terms of like their usage, right? So if we can create more engagement, that makes people want to go back in various different ways. So a lot of like the ideas is can we build in the even for example going to the simulator, you get your swing data. That would improve obviously that it brings you onto the caddy of the golf course, like that improves that model a lot better, anyways. So it's trying to, yes, navigate again that market and trying to figure out exactly what that means. Because I mean, a lot of times, like I mean, the tech in the simulators are so good now, and they're so engaging, and it's all kind of right in that house. So yeah, we're trying to figure that out as we go. But in some discussions with some companies to try to figure that out together because there's no point in like we're not looking to build simulators anytime soon. Right. So it's partner with the companies that are best at that, and then we can provide obviously tech and services and users in the areas that we excel at.
Hmm. Understood. So, I mean, in the last section, I want to talk about a little bit the future plans and the vision. I want to ask,
Yeah.
like, what is next for Golf.ai? Are there any exciting updates on the horizon? And also, do you see expanding Golf.ai to into other sports or related industries?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so immediately in terms of golf.ai, I mean, like the caddy's coming out soon, which is really exciting because obviously as a golf company, having somebody that you can use on golf course rather helpful. So that we're really excited about. That'll be like essentially one of the biggest features of the platform, to be able to use Caddy on the golf course. Really exciting. It's really been using it and super helpful, super fun to be able to use. And then from that, I mean, there's various different opportunities. We're actually in, which we haven't touched, or something we haven't touched on, is with obviously AI. There's a lot of opportunities in the in innovating on like the user experience of various different um, touch points in golf or anything in sports and in life. So even like on like the tee time booking side of things, just being able to build in these like AI agents, let's call them. It's a rather broad term that people throw around a lot, but being able to call a phone number and book a tee time anywhere in the world, like that would be like obviously a path we're moving towards, and talking to a lot of people to try to enable that. We have some demos that we're actually demoing right now with people and testing. So being able to tap into the tee time market, it's kind of an area we're moving towards to innovate on like user experience side of things. So that's really exciting. And I mean, in terms of which we haven't touched on a ton, we're coming out with some new features on like the media side of things and innovating on the user interactions of the media. Obviously, it's a rather broad sentence to say, so it'll be much more easier to visualize once we come out with it. That translates very quickly and scales very quickly to every other sport in the world. So there's obviously discussions as we do as entrepreneurs and startup founders. We tend to have the mindset of we can do anything. So trying to one navigate the excitement of being able to do it across multiple different sports. And this was the discussion as we go back to the inception of Golf.AI. We had this discussion of, do we do many different sports in one very specific sport? Because we saw the opportunities in both, and which one do we want to do? And that's why we chose golf specifically, because we can do it in the verticals of both while you play and while you watch. So the media stuff while you watch, while as a fan, that scales very quickly across many different sports, and obviously has implications in betting as well, because obviously like media information is essentially important in betting. So we're innovating a lot on like the user experience side of things. And like, for example, I'll briefly touch on it. Then the hypothesis is, or the general gist of the information is, there's the way we consume, let's say, stories now is generally through headlines, and headlines. There'll be 10 headlines. The headlines give you a little bit of a sneak peek in terms of like what that story is about. And then you click on what's interesting, and then you read that article, maybe go back and read another one. And even like in podcasts, you'll get a list of the podcast, then you'll click on it and listen to it. What I see it as is that is like a window into the story, and like that's showing you a little tease of what's interesting into the story. But generally in sports, our first touch point isn't the articles, isn't the headlines. It's actually like the scoreboard, the scorecard in golf, the leaderboard, that like kind of very quick, beautiful view of the stats, what happened, and stuff like that. So what we're doing is putting the story right at that touch point. We're going to show you what's interesting within that. And then if you click that, it'll show you the story of what happened. Like, for example, you can click on the 4th round of a player that got 10th in a tournament. Maybe he was ranked 500th and got 10th. So that's interesting, right? All of a sudden you click it, get the story in audio form and in text form or anything. Going down the route of even like things like interactive podcasts, right? So because what we can do this with the technology that we built on the media side, as a podcast starts, you can then guide the podcast into various different ways and allow it to navigate and move and shift into different topics and different voices and call into the podcast. So there's a lot of space within that to go across to different sports, because as you can imagine, kind of like falls into like the while you watch category. And we can scale it across different sports very quickly. But we're obviously focused very, very intensely on golf. And we'll see where that takes us, I think, for now. But that's kind of the big plan.
Yeah, sounds really exciting, and I think also my audience will be following you guys and your story this year and upcoming years. Thank you very much for joining us today, Peter, and thank you for your time. And it is
Yeah.
really nice to meet you personally.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Then
Awesome.
have a nice day. I'll let you know when I release the podcast and the text, and I'm going to send you the link so you can feel free to share in your platforms as well.
Love it. Love it. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Have a nice day.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Bye.